Assalamualaikum and good morning. My name is Muhammad Adam Fitri bin Muhammad Sarul Nizam. On behalf of Associate Professor Dr. Shakina Stacey, allow me to welcome our special guest lecturer for today. Please welcome Dr. Evi Yulianti, a dedicated educator and researcher from Universitas Negeri Yogyakarta in Indonesia. Dr. Evi specialized in biochemistry, cell biology, and molecular biotechnology, and she served as a lecturer at the Department of Biology Education within the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences. We extend our sincere gratitude to Dr. Evie for graciously agreeing to share her insights on the topics of glycolysis and gluconeogenesis. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Evie Yulianti. Let us give a warm round of virtual applause to Dr. Evie Yulianti as we embark on this exciting session. Now, I will invite Dr. Evie Yulianti to begin her lecture on glycolysis and gluconeogenesis. Dr. Evie, please, the virtual floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mas Adam Fikri ya. We call it Mas for boy students ya, and Mbak for the girls. Okay, let me start this class. Okay, can you see my topics here? Glycolysis and gluconeogenesis.
Yes, doctor.
Okay, thank you. So now we will discuss about the glycolysis and the gluconeogenesis. For the overview, the glycolysis and gluconeogenesis are two fundamental biochemical pathways that play a critical role in cellular energy metabolism. So the glycolysis is the process by which the glucose will be broken down to get the ATP for the cell's energies, and the gluconeogenesis is the reverse of glycolysis. It makes the glucose from the source, non-carbohydrate sources, such as the amino acids, lactose, or glycerol. So we know that the glucose is the important molecule in our cells. We use this glucose to, there are some rules of the glucose in our bodies. The first one is for storage, for energy storage. We store this glucose in the form of glycogen, and then some plants store this glucose in the form of the starch or sucrose. And the other one is the glucose is used to synthesize some structural polymers like the extracellular matrix and cell walls in the plant cells. And then it can oxidize via the glycolysis into the pyruvate, and then it can entering the pentosa phosphate pathway to become the ribose 5 phosphate. So we know that before meal and after meal, after we eat, the concentration of glucose in the cell is different. So we have a very low concentration of glucose before meal, but after meal, we have a lot of glucose in the cells that will be oxidized to become an energy in our cells. So all carbohydrates in our cell will be transformed into the glucose before it oxidizes. It oxidizes to make an ATP. The glucose will be catabolized in three pathways. The first one is glycolysis, and then it will be entering the Krebs cycle. And the last one is the electron transport chains. So we know that the glucose will entering three pathways. before it produce the ATP, this glycolysis, and then the Krebs cycle and electron transport chain. So the first one is glucose will be oxidized into the pyruvic acid. In this process, NAD plus will be reduced to be an NADH plus H plus, and the ATP will be synthesized in the substrate level phosphorylation. And the pyruvic acid or pyruvate is the end product of the glycolysis. So this pyruvic acid or the pyruvate will be going to the Krebs cycle in aerobic pathways and become the lactic acid when it is the anaerobic environment in this cell. So this is the overview of the glycolysis. This glucose molecule will be transformed into the pyruvate or pyruvate acid before it entering the Krebs cycle. So we know that there are two phases of glycolysis. We call it the preparatory phase or investment phase, and then the second one is the payoff phase. It consists of 5 steps in the investment phase or preparatory phase, and the other 5 steps is in the payoff phase. In the preparatory phase or the investment phase, we call it investment because maybe if you want to sell something, maybe you will sell books in the market. You have to buy some book in the cheaper price. Maybe you buy the books maybe 1 ringgit. I don't know how much books in Malaysia. Maybe you buy for 1 ringgit, and in the payoff phase, you will sell this book maybe 2 ringgit, like this. So in this phase, we have to use this energy force to produce more energy in the payoff phase. It consists of 5 steps in this preparatory phase. The first reaction, we need the glucose. We need the glucose as the reactant or the substrate of these steps, the first step. Do you know what is the differences between this molecule with this one? What is the differences between these two molecules?
The functional group.
Okay.
One has phosphate group.
Yeah, it has the hydroxyl groups, and this one has the phosphate group. So we call this glucose, and in the right side, it's also a glucose. It has the same ring structure, and then it has the 6 carbons. So this 2 molecule is similar. This is the first carbon, number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So they are have the same structure. So we call it also glucose. But the differences is it has the phosphate group in the 6 carbon. Where does this phosphate came from? Do you know where does this phosphate came from?
From ATP.
From ATP. So, this phosphate group is came from the ATP. This ATP release one of their phosphate group to the glucose, so it become this molecule, and the ATP that lost their phosphate group become the AGP. This reaction need the Mg2 plus as a cofactor, so we call this structure glucose. Because this phosphate group is in the carbon number 6, so it's 6 phosphate. So we produce the glucose 6-phosphate in the first step that we call it phosphorylation, because this glucose is phosphorylated by the adding one group of phosphate from the ATP, and this ATP become the ATP. Now, this process was catalyzed by the hexokinase. This kinase enzyme is the enzyme that act to to transfer the phosphate group from one molecule to another molecule. So because this the glucose has 6 carbon, so it called hexo. Hexo means 6 carbon. So this reaction, the first reaction of phosphorylation is catalyzed by the hexokinase. Now, this phosphorylation of the glucose, it ensures that the pathway will going forward. Yeah, so it will keep the glucose remain in the cell, not going back to the bloodstream. So this glucose will be phosphorylated first, so it will remain in the cell. The second reaction, the glucose 6-phosphate will be transformed to this molecule. We can see that this molecule it has the different ring. Yeah, it has the different ring, but this molecule also have 6 carbon. This molecule called fructose. Because the phosphate group is in the same site, yeah, in the carbon number 6. So it's just the isomer form of the glucose 6-phosphate. So for this reaction, yeah, it called fructose 6-phosphate because the phosphate is still in the carbon number 6. Now, this isomerization process is catalyzed by the isomerase enzyme, the special isomerase enzyme called phosphohexose isomerase, because this enzyme will catalyze the glucose that have phosphate in the carbon number 6. So it's called isomerase. This isomerization moves the carbonyl to C number 2 because it's a prerequisite for next steps, for the third and fourth step. So if we still use this structure, glucose 6-phosphate, in the next step, we have to split this molecule, the substrate molecule, yeah, 6 carbon. We have to split it into 2 molecules with the same structure. Yeah, so we have to add this carbon, this phosphate group is in the 6 carbon, and then we have to add one more phosphate to this molecule. If we still have the glucose 6-phosphate, we cannot add this phosphate group here, yeah, because we cannot phosphorylate this structure. So we have to make the different molecule. The fructose 6-phosphate is the isomer of this glucose, so we can add more phosphate in this carbon atom. Yeah, so we have to isomerize this glucose 6-phosphate into the fructose 6-phosphate first. And the next step, we add one more phosphate in this carbon number 1 of the fructose 6-phosphate. So The phosphate is also add from the ATP. One of the phosphate from the ATP will be add to these hydroxyl groups of the fructose 6 phosphate, and then the fructose 6 phosphate will become this structure, fructose 1,6 biphosphate. After that step, in the reaction number 3, this phosphorylation step is catalyzed by phosphofructokinase number 1. Phosphofructokinase 1 is to add this phosphate group in the carbon number 1. We know that there is also the PFK2. PFK2 is adding the phosphate group in the C number 2. So the C number 1, no hydroxyl group, so it can be phosphorylated by more phosphate group from the ATP. And the next step is cleavage step. The fructose 1,6 biphosphate will be split into 2 molecules with 3 carbon atoms like this. This is the hydroxyacetone phosphate and the glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. So this two kind of molecule is also the isomer forms. So this is from the ketone, and this is the aldehyde form of the glycerol triosol, triosol. So the carbonic group at the C number 2 facilitates cis-bond cleavage at the right rotation, so it will yield 3 carbon products by the reverse of aldone condensation. So the aldolase will split this molecule, fructose 1,6 biphosphate, to become the dihydroxyacetone phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. And the last reaction in the investment phase is isomerization. This dihydroxyacetone phosphate will be isomerized into the glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. So in the end of the investment phase, we have 2 molecules of glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. Now, so the interconversion from the dihydroxyacetone phosphate into the glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate funnels both products into a single pathway. So our molecule known as the glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate. Now, in the second phase of the glycolysis, we also have 5 steps in the payoff phase. In the payoff phase, we will produce the ATP, the ATP and NADH, the form of the cell's energy. The first reaction in the payoff phase, this glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate will be add the inorganic phosphate, so it's different with this process that phosphorylation, the phosphate from the phosphate in the step. This step is from the ATP. This step, the phosphorylation step, the phosphate is from the ATP, but in this step, the phosphate is in the form of inorganic phosphate. This phosphate, the inorganic phosphate, will be added to the glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate, and this glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate will lose their H. This H ion will be added to the NAD plus, so it will become the NADH plus H plus. So it's called the oxidation because this NAD plus will be aiding the H ion from the glyceraldehyde triphosphate. And this reaction is catalyzed by glyceraldehyde triphosphate dehydrogenase. So the product will be 1,3-biphosphoglycerate. This step is a prerequisite for the ATP production in step number 7, or the next step. This next step is the substrate level phosphorylation. So the 1,3-biphosphoglycerate will give the phosphate, this phosphate, to the ADP. So this 1,3-biphosphoglycerate will become the 3-phosphoglycerate because it lose one phosphate group and give it to the ADP. This ADP will be the ATP because it has another phosphate group from the 1,3-biphosphoglycerate. It's called the substrate level phosphorylation. This reaction is catalyzed by the phosphoglycerate kinase with the Mg2 plus as a cofactor. And the next step is the shift of phosphoryl group. The phosphate group in the carbon number 3 will be moved to the carbon number 2. Number 3 will be moved to the carbon number 2. So because this molecule 3-phosphoglycerate and the 2-phosphoglycerate is the isomer from, but it's specific, it needs the specific enzyme. It's called the mutase enzyme that move the functional group from one side to the other side. So this enzyme called phosphoglycerate mutase that move the phosphate group from the third carbon to the second carbon. So now the product will call the 2-phosphoglycerate. This is the steps how the phosphate move from the third carbon to the second carbon. The phosphoglycerate mutase use this part of the enzyme to move the phosphate group from the third carbon to the second carbon. And the next step, the 2-phosphoglycerate will become the phosphoenol pyruvate. It lose this H and hydroxyl group. So it's the dehydration process for the 2-phosphoglycerate to become the phosphoenol pyruvate. This reaction will catalyzed by enolase. And the last reaction, this is also called substrate level phosphorylation. The phosphoenol pyruvate will give this phosphate group to the ADP. So this phosphoenol pyruvate will be pyruvate, and the ADP that have more phosphate group will become the ATP that have 3 phosphate. And this is the summary of the glycolysis process. We call this the first phase or investment phase because we need these 2 ATP to produce these 2 molecules, dihydroxyacetone phosphate, that will be converted into the glyceraldehyde triphosphate. And then this is a payoff phase because we produce the ATP and the NADH. This NADH will be converted into the ATP by the electron transport chain reaction. So from this glycolysis, we will get 5 ATP. So you have to remember that in the last process of investment phase, we have two molecule of bisaldehyde 3-phosphate. So this step will be double. So we have 2 ATP here, 2 ATP here, and 2 NADH plus H plus here. So we have this, if this NADH plus H plus converted to the ATP, we will have 6 ATP. So the total ATP from the PO phase is 10 ATP. But we have to reduce this ATP because we use the 2 ATPs before in the investment phase. So this 10 ATP minus 2 ATP. So we have 8 ATPs in total from this glycolysis process. So before I continue to the next topics, is it any question? From the glycolysis process, do you have question first?
Doktor, saya nak tanya,
Oh ya, boleh silakan.
untuk reaction nombor 8 tadi,
Ya,
kan ada H plus kan? Mg2 plus.
ya.
Apa function Mg2 plus tu dalam reaction tu?
Okay, Mg2 plus is a cofactor. So the enzyme, some enzyme needs a cofactor or coenzyme to help the reaction happen in this enzyme. So if we maybe we have to go back to the how enzyme works, to catalyze the reaction. This is the an example of the enzyme structure. The enzyme have the active sites here, a very small hole in the structure of enzyme. It consists of some functional groups. Actually, in the active site of the enzyme, there are only few amino acids that actively bind or catalyze the substrate. Maybe, for example, this is an arginine, this is histidine, and this is aspartate, for example. Nah, in this pocket, in this active sites of the enzyme, these functional groups of the amino acids in the active site of the enzyme will catalyze, will react with the substrate. Maybe this is a substrate. This is a substrate. The positive groups, positive parts of the protein, from the amino acid here, will be make ionic bonds with this substrate. Maybe this is histidine, it has the positive, aspartate is negative. Now like this, this negative parts of the substrate will be bind to the positive part of the enzyme. This is the positive part of the amino acid will be bind the negative part of the substrate or reactant. This because the aspartate is negative, it will bind the positive charge of the substrate or reactant. And sometimes the enzyme needs some ions like this Mg2 plus or the other ions to help this enzyme to recognize or to bind, to make the binding between this enzyme and the substrate. So this is the function of the cofactor. And maybe some enzyme needs the coenzyme like biotin. Biotin. Nah, biotin is to, wait, where is the biotin here? Biotin is the coenzyme that help to move, to transport the carbon weight. Maybe I remove the steps with the biotin here. Wait. I will give you an example how biotin works here. Nah, this is a biotin. Biotin is a coenzyme. It helps to add the carboxyl groups for one molecule to another molecule. So this is different with the cofactor. Cofactor is usually in the form of ions, but the coenzyme is in the form of organic molecule like the biotin or the other vitamins. So is it clear?
Clear, Doctor.
Okay.
Thank you.
So maybe we can continue.
Nak tanya,
Oke, silakan.
dari mana 6 ATP yang kat hujung tu terhasil?
6?
Itu.
Oh, this. 6 ATP ini dari mana ya? Oke. So in the glycolysis we will produce the NADH plus H plus, and in the next step from pyruvate, if this pyruvate entering the Krebs cycle or tricarboxylic cycle TCA, yeah, it will yield the FADH2. This NADH and FADH2 will be entering the mitochondria to transfer this energy form become the ATP. So we will produce the ATP as the energy source of the cell that we can use it this in the form of ATP. Usually the cells use the energy in the form of ATP. So we have to transfer this energy form, the NADH plus H plus and FADH2 to become the ATP in the process of electron transport chain reaction. We convert these two kinds of energy in the electron transport chain reaction. Then the next step after the Krebs cycle. So I will find the clear part of my PPT. Wait. Nah, this energy NADH plus H plus and FADH2, actually we only use the H plus of this energy form. This H plus have to move to the mitochondria because it have no because it is in the ion forms, it can move to the membrane of the mitochondria. So this H plus need some help. Yeah, it have to to add to some molecule that have the transporter, specific transporter in the membrane of mitochondria. This NADH and FADH2, this the H plus of these two molecules, it can move along this mitochondrial membrane in two pathway. This malat aspartate shuttle or glycerol 3-phosphate shuttle. This H plus can move from the cytosol to the inner side of the mitochondria using these two mechanisms, malat aspartate shuttle or glycerol 3-phosphate shuttle. In the malat aspartate shuttle, this H plus from the NADH and FADH2 will be attached to the NAD plus in the inner side of the mitochondria. But for the FAD, if they use the malat aspartate shuttle, but if they use this glycerol 3-phosphate shuttle, the FAD plus will get this H plus. So there is the differences between the total product of the ATP with this two shuttle mechanism. In this electron transport chains, there are some electron transport protein. Yeah, they have the specific protein in this membrane. There are complex 1 and then complex 2, complex 3 and 4, and in this have the ATP synthesis. This they have the F0 and the F1 side of this ATP synthesis. This first complex is for the NADH, yeah, NAD plus that attached by H plus from the cytosol. Plus become NAD plus, and this for the FADH. Every movement of the H from the electron, the H plus will be this H plus always accompanied by the electron. When the electron move from one protein to the other, yeah, the H plus will be transferred to the inner side of mitochondria, in the matrix of mitochondria. So this complex, the first complex, and then the third complex and the fourth complex can move the H plus to the matrix of mitochondria. Sorry. From the here to the intermembrane space. So this is the intermembrane space. Maaf, ini kebalik ya. Jadi, so the H plus will be moved to the intermembrane space of the mitochondria. So when the electron transferred from this electron acceptor to the other electron acceptor in the inner membrane of the mitochondria, the H plus will be transferred here. So now the intermembrane space of the mitochondria will be full of this ion, of the H plus ions. So it will be pumped to the matrix of the mitochondria via this ATP ATP synthase, if the proton, if this H plus ions pump to the matrix of mitochondria, this enzyme will be activated. So it will change the AGP, phosphorylate the AGP to become the ATP. So every electron transported to one electron acceptor to the other, and the proton from the intermembrane space move to the matrix of mitochondria, one ATP is produced. So this NADH that accept by the first electron transporter, this complex, this move in the complex 1, 2, and 3. So we can conclude that this NADH will give us 3 molecules of ATPs, and then because the FADH is moved to the second complex, so it's only move to the 3 and 4 electron acceptor, so it just give us 2 ATPs. So the NADH plus will give us 3 ATPs, and then the FADH from the Krebs cycle will give us 2 ATPs. So from this payoff phase, it will give us 2 NADH. So if this converted to the ATP, we will get 6 ATPs from this NADH. Bisa dipahami? Can you understand it?
Can boleh. Dia tak hasil dari chemiosmosis ke?
Yeah, chemiosmosis. It's similar with what happened in the chloroplast. The chloroplast also have the chemiosmotic, in the membrane of thylakoid membrane. It's also have the chemiosmosis. Okay. Any other question from the glycolysis? No? Okay. We will see how about the other kind of carbohydrates. If we eat in the maybe fruits, this fruit has the fructose inside. This fructose will be phosphorylated by the fructokinase enzyme to become fructose 1-phosphates, and then the aldolase which splits this fructose to become the glyceraldehyde and hydroxyacetal phosphate, and these two kind of molecule will entering the glycolysis too. And for the galactose, galactose is we can find it in the milk, in the form of lactose. Lactose will be split into glucose and galactose. The galactose will be converted into glucose 6-phosphate, and this glucose 6-phosphate will entering the glycolysis by changing this molecule into fructose 6-phosphate. Now maybe this is some other kinds of carbohydrates molecules, sucrose, trehalose, and so on. So for the regulation of this glycolysis process, this hexokinase will inhibited by the glucose 6-phosphate. So when the glucose 6-phosphate is abundant, we have a lot of glucose 6-phosphate in our cells. So this step will be inhibited by this product. So the hexokinase is inhibited by its product. The pyruvate kinase will inhibited by the ATP. So the ATP is, we have a lot of ATP in the cells. The pyruvate kinase also will be inhibited, and the acetyl coenzyme A. but it activated by the fructose 1,6-biphosphate. Where do the intermediates in glycolysis go? The glucose 6-phosphate goes off to make the ribose or for nucleotides in the pentosa phosphate. No, sorry. In the pentosa phosphate pathway, this fructose 6-phosphate will be a precursor for the amino sugars, glycolipids, and glycoproteins. This glycerol 3-phosphate or hydroxyacetone phosphate is a precursor to make some lipids, and this 3-phosphoglycerate is the precursor to make a serine. The phosphoenol pyruvate is the precursor to make some aromatic amino acids, pyrimidine, like the aspartate and asparagines, and the pyruvate is the precursor to make an alanine. So what are the possible fates of pyruvate? It can make an ethanol in the fermentation process or anaerobic process, or it can be an acetyl coenzyme A before entering the Krebs cycle. It can move to the Krebs cycle, if the pyruvate converted into the oxaloacetate. This oxaloacetate also can go into the gluconeogenesis process to make the glucose, and it can make a lactate if it's an aerobic state in our cell. So I have some question here. Where in the cells, where the glycolysis take place in the cell? Can you answer it?
Cytoplasm.
Okay, cytoplasm or cytosol. What are the inputs? What are the substrate from this pathway or reaction?
Glucose.
Glucose. Okay. What are the outcomes? What are the product of this glycolysis? What is the product of the glycolysis?
G3P.
GTP?
Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate.
Wait.
Oh, pyruvate.
Pyruvate. Yeah. This G3P is the product of the investment phase or the preparation phase, but the product or the end product of the glycolysis is the pyruvate that will entering the Krebs cycle. And the last one is, when do we use the glycolysis? When? When do we need this
Present of
glycolysis?
glucose.
Yeah?
Present of glucose.
Yeah, if our cells, if we have a lot of glucose and we need ATP. So we move to the next topics, gluconeogenesis. Do you know what the difference is between this glycolysis and this gluconeogenesis? It's look like similar but reverse, right? But actually it's not that simple, yeah. So we have in the glycolysis process, we have some enzyme that it's an irreversible enzyme in this reaction, and then in this reaction, and the last reaction. Now, the differences between the steps in the glycolysis, these three reaction is an irreversible reaction, and the other is reversible irreversible reaction. Sorry. Now, so why God give us these two kind of reaction, yeah, irreversible and reversible. This reversible reaction usually they just need one kind of enzyme. Yeah, these two mechanisms only need one kind of enzyme, but for the irreversible reaction, they need different kind of enzyme. They need, this fructokinase 1, this pyruvate kinase, and this two kind of enzyme. So why God give us this irreversible kind of reaction? Anybody can answer this question? Why there are some irreversible reaction in this glycolysis pathway? This is for, this is for regulation, of this reaction. So this is not that simple, yeah, that reverse reaction from the glycolysis to the gluconeogenesis. We have to regulate when the gluconeogenesis can happen in our body. So it needs the regulator like the hormone. So this product, this pyruvate product, it's not simplified to become the glucose. It needs some hormone to regulate when this gluconeogenesis have to happen in our cell. So we have two pathways, yeah, how we maintain the blood sugar or blood glucose during fasting. Now we have gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis. What is the glycogenolysis? We know that the carbohydrate in our body is stored as a glycogen in the liver. And if we need the glucose, we can hydrolyze this glycogen into the glucose 6-phosphate. And then it will convert it into the glucose. So our glucose level or concentration is maintained in our body. The second one, we use this process, gluconeogenesis, that we will produce the glucose from the non-carbohydrate substrate like fat or lipids, yeah, from the glycerol, amino acid, or lactate. So in the gluconeogenesis process, we need this glycerol, amino acids, or lactate, and converted these three kinds of molecule into the glucose. So the gluconeogenesis is the synthesis of the new glucose molecules from the pyruvate, lactate, glycerol, or amino acids. Yeah, this process takes place primarily in the fasting or starvation. Yeah, when we have no other substrate, yeah, glucose in our cells, yeah, or low carbohydrate diets. Why we have to make sure that the glucose in our body remain constant? Because some organs like the brain, yeah, and the erythrocyte can only use glucose as the energy source. So we have to make sure that our glucose concentration is remain constant in our body. So if the concentration falls below the certain points in our body, the glucose will be synthesized from this molecule. This gluconeogenesis is not simply the reverse of glycolysis. There are some important differences. In the gluconeogenesis, we need these three different enzymes, and this phosphoenolpyruvate carboxygenase, and then the fructose 1,6-bifosphate biphosphatase and then the glucose 6-phosphatase. Now this is from the irreversible reaction in the glycolysis. Now, so like the glycolysis, this process is under the tight control of the hormone. Yeah, it will happen if the stress hormone, like glucagon or cortisol, upregulate the phosphoenolpyruvate carboxykinase and fructose 1,6-biphosphatase to stimulate the gluconeogenesis. So we have some precursors for the gluconeogenic, for the gluconeogenesis. The first one is the glucogenic amino acids. We have the alanine in the liver and the glutamine in the kidneys. Yeah, so the majority of amino acids from the Krebs cycle intermediates and pyruvate will have the glucogenic, property, so it can transform to the glucose in the gluconeogenesis pathway. And the second one is the lactate. Now, lactate is a good source of the glucose during the exercise, because in the exercise we will produce a lot of lactate that oxidize in the cardiac muscle, which is rich in mitochondria. And this lactate, if we not convert this lactate to become the glucose, it can be the acidosis in our cells, so it's dangerous. So we can convert this lactate into the glucose, in the gluconeogenesis pathways. The third one is glycerol. Glycerol is from the hydrolysis of the lipid. So the lipid will be hydrolyzed to become 1 molecule of glycerol and 3 molecules of fatty acid. We have 3 molecules of fatty acids and 1 molecule of the glycerol from the hydrolysis of triglyceride or triacylglycerol. And the last one is propionate. We also can make the glucose from this propionate. Propionate is if we hydrolyze the fatty acids that have odd number of carbon, the last product of the oxidation, or we call it the beta oxidation, is the propionyl coenzyme A, propionyl CoA. This propionyl CoA will be moved to the gluconeogenesis. It can convert it into the glucose in this pathway. I think it's very small. Do you see this diagram? Can you see it clearly? Maybe I will zoom this diagram first. So this is the steps of the gluconeogenesis from SANS reactant. This is from glycerol. Glycerol is for the hydrolysis of lipid. This glycerol with the glycerol kinase will be phosphorylated. This glycerol kinase will add one of the phosphate group from the ATP and attach it in the atom C number 3 of the glycerol to become this glycerol triphosphate. And then it can be converted into dehydroxyacetone phosphate by the dehydrogenase enzyme. And these two kinds of the molecule, glycerol triphosphate and the dehydroxyacetone phosphate, by the aldolase will be converted into the fructose 1,6-biphosphates. This kind of enzyme is different with the enzyme in the glycolysis because this is an irreversible reaction. So this fructose 1-phosphate of the fructose 1,6-biphosphate will be removed, will be hydrolyzed by fructose 1,6-biphosphatase to become this fructose 6-phosphate, and then the isomerase enzyme will convert this fructose into the glucose 6-phosphate. From this glucose 6-phosphate, the phosphate group will be hydrolyzed by glucose 6-phosphatase to become this glucose. This glucose 6-phosphate is a precursor to make the glycogen. From some amino acids, some amino acid from the transamination or deamination will converted into the pyruvate. It also can use lactate as the precursor. It will converted into the pyruvate. This pyruvate will move to the mitochondria and converted into oxaloacetate by pyruvate carboxylase. The oxaloacetate will be hydrogenased by the enzyme of dehydrogenase into the malate, because the malate have a specific transporter in the mitochondrial membrane. This malate will be moved to the cytosol, and in the cytosol, this malate will be converted into oxaloacetate. This oxaloacetate will be converted into phosphoenol pyruvate by phosphoenol pyruvate carboxykinase. This is also the different enzyme, from the glycolysis, because it's irreversible reaction. Now, I will show you that some amino acid can also be converted into fumarate. Fumarate is different intermediate molecule in the Krebs cycle. And then some amino acid can also be converted into alpha ketoglutarate after they go into the transamination process that remove the amino groups from the amino acid into the alpha ketoglutarate. This alpha ketoglutarate will entering the Krebs cycle. And then this propionyl coenzyme A, this is the terminal carbon of the chain fatty acid from the beta oxidation. It will converted into the methylmalonyl coenzyme A by adding one more carbon from the carbon dioxide. It also will entering this Krebs cycle. So there are so many kinds of molecules that can be converted into the glucose by the gluconeogenesis process. We call it the molecule that can be converted into the glucose is glucogenic molecule. Now for the amino acid, usually we use this alanine and serine, also lactate, that will be converted to the pyruvate and entering the gluconeogenesis. This is from glutamine. Glutamine will entering the mitochondria, and then in this mitochondria, the ammonia will be hydrolyzed from this glutamine to make the glutamate, and then this glutamate will be entering the oxidative deamination, and the glutamate will lose this ammonia, this NH3, and become the alpha ketoglutarate. This alpha ketoglutarate will be entering the Krebs cycle, become malate, and malate will converted into the oxaloacetate and so on. It will produce the glucose in the same pathway with the other molecules. This is from the lactate. Lactate will be produced in our muscle cell. When we do the exercise, we use the glycogen as an energy source that will be hydrolyzed to make the glucose 6-phosphate, and then this glucose 6-phosphate will be oxidized to make the pyruvate. Because this anaerobic, the pyruvate will be converted into the lactate. The lactate will enter in the blood and then move to the liver. In the liver, this lactate will be converted into the pyruvate, and then the pyruvate will go into the gluconeogenesis to make the glucose. And this is for the glycerol. The glycerol from the hydrolysis of the triglyceraldehyde. This glycerol will be phosphorylated by glycerol kinase to have more phosphate group. So it converted into the glycerol phosphate, and then it lose their H ions, yeah, by the enzyme of glycerol phosphate dehydrogenase and become the dihydroxyacetone phosphate and entering the gluconeogenesis process. So this is the summary of the gluconeogenesis process. We have the lactate that will be converted to the pyruvate, and then some amino acid like the alanine will be converted into the oxaloacetate, and in this glycerol, this is from lipids that will be converted into dihydroxyacetone phosphate, and after that the isomerase will convert this dihydroxyacetone phosphate to become the glyceraldehyde triphosphate and entering this gluconeogenesis process. So it's just a small explanation about the specific enzyme that used in the gluconeogenesis process. Maybe you can read it. The phosphoenol pyruvate carboxykinase to convert the oxaloacetate into the phosphoenol pyruvate, and then the fructose 1,6-biphosphatase will be convert the fructose 1,6-biphosphate, hydrolyze this fructose 1,6-biphosphate to become the fructose 6-phosphates and the inorganic phosphate. And then the glucose 6-phosphatase will convert this glucose 6-phosphate, hydrolyze the glucose 6-phosphate into the glucose and inorganic phosphate. So this glucose 6-phosphate is the product of this reaction. This is very valuable because it's a precursor for glycogen synthesis. So when our glucose is abundant in our cells, this glucose will be stored in our cell in the form of glycogen. So in the liver, glucose 6-phosphatase is highly regulated. Yeah, so it's very important. In liver, in the lumen of endoplasmic reticulum, this glucose 6-phosphate will be hydrolyzed by glucose 6-phosphatase. We have three kinds of the transporter: the T1, T2, and T3. The T1 will entering this glucose 6-phosphate and hydrolyze this molecule into the inorganic phosphate and the glucose that will be moved to the cytosols in the liver, and then this glucose will be used in the cells, as an energy source. So this glycolysis and gluconeogenesis are reciprocally regulated. So we know that there are some regulation, when the glycolysis and gluconeogenesis can happen in our body. The glycolysis will be stimulated by the insulin hormone, and this will be upregulated by the fructose 2,6-biphosphate and the AMP, but it will be inhibited by the ATP, citrate, and hydrogen ions. So this molecule will increase the reaction of the phosphofructokinase. And the other side, the glucagon will stimulate the gluconeogenesis. It will be inhibited by the fructose 2,6-biphosphate and the AMP, and will be upregulated by the citrate. This molecule will regulate the fructose 1,6-biphosphatase. The other steps, the pyruvate kinase will be upregulated by the fructose 1,6-biphosphate and will be inhibited by the ATP and the alanine. The two kind of the enzyme, the pyruvate carboxylase will be upregulated by the acetyl coenzyme A and inhibited by the AGP, and the phosphoenol pyruvate carboxykinase will be inhibited by the AGP. So there are some additional functions of the gluconeogenesis process in our body. The first one is to control the acid-base balance. So we know that the lactate will be produced in the exercise. So, but this lactate production can make this metabolic acidosis. So when we have a lot of lactate in our body, it will become the metabolic acidosis. So when we use this lactate to produce more glucose from the gluconeogenesis, we call it clearance. Yeah, we call it the lactate clearance. So we have no more lactate in our body. And the second one is to maintain the amino acid balance, because we can use these amino acids, yeah, besides to produce more proteins, but we can also use this amino acid as a precursor to make a new glucose, yeah, to some organs like the brains and the erythrocytes. And the last one is the provision of biosynthetic precursors. When we have no adequate dietary carbohydrate intake, we can supply the glucose from this gluconeogenesis pathway. So I think that's all. Thank you for listening me, and maybe you have some more question. Please feel free to ask. No more question? Is it enough?
I think no question.
Oke, silakan C. Azim. C. Azim.
No, I don't have question.
Oh no, I don't have question. Okay, is it clear, or maybe I'm too fast, so all of you is confused what I'm talking about? No, I hope
Is it
not.
clear?
Oh, very clear. Okay, thank you. So, Mas Adam Fitri, is it enough, or okay, I give back to you?
Doktor,
Okay, silakan.
sorry, sorry. Okay, doktor. Semalam saya punya kelas dengan Dr. Sheikh, kita orang ada buat projek base learning. So tajuk kita orang ni pasal Wired and Alive, Unveiling Caffeine Influence on Human Body. Jadinya saya nak tanya, apa yang terjadi pada liver sekiranya kafein lebih banyak daripada glukos? Adakah ianya memberi kesan buruk terhadap glucogenesis?
Keton, gimana? Bisa diulangi?
Oh, boleh. Jadi macam ni, apa yang terjadi kepada liver sekiranya kafein lebih banyak daripada glukos? Adakah ianya memberi kesan buruk ataupun memberi kesan lah terhadap glucogenesis?
Apa tadi yang lebih banyak? Mohon maaf.
Sekejap, saya tulis dekat chat.
Oh iya, boleh. Ditulis di chat. Nah, saya kurang paham. Maybe another question first. Saya kok dengarnya keton. Oke, sambil menunggu, maybe there are another question. Wait. Di chat ya. Oke, Mbak Farah? Belum ditulis ya? Makanya kesini saya mau membeli. Dia parkir mobilnya aja sampai ke Marjon. Sorry ya, I have friend here that interrupting me. Oh, kafein. Nah, kafein ya. Di sini banyak yang pencinta kopi ya. Nah, jika kita punya lebih banyak, ya. Oke, Mbak Fatih asks, original is red and alive. Ini apa? Unveiling caffeine's influence on human body. So what will happen in liver if caffeine lebih banyak dari glucose? Ya, jadi jika kafein itu stimulan ya, it's a stimulator that will influence our nervous system ya. Jadi si kafein itu adalah stimulan yang nanti dia bisa mempengaruhi sistem saraf pusat ya. Kalau glukosa kan dia sumber energi. Jadi ada beberapa kemungkinan ya pengaruh kafein di dalam tubuh kita. Yang pertama adalah kafein dapat menyebabkan peningkatan energi gitu ya, karena dia memiliki efek stimulasi karena dia sebagai stimulan gitu ya. Nah, hal ini bisa mengakibatkan insomnia atau kesulitan tidur. Jadi untuk beberapa orang yang mungkin sudah sangat resisten dengan kafein, itu bisa malah justru menyebabkan insomnia. Yang kedua, kafein juga bisa menyebabkan hipoglikemia atau gula darah yang rendah seperti itu. Jadi apabila glukosanya rendah, ya konsentrasi glukosanya rendah, tetapi kafeinnya tinggi, maka dapat terjadi penurunan kadar gula darah ya, bisa menyebabkan hipoglikemia. Kemudian juga ada beberapa orang yang kafein itu kalau dia mengkonsumsi kafein, maka akan menyebabkan kecemasan ya. Kemudian jantungnya berdebar seperti itu ya, karena kafein ini dia bekerjanya dengan meningkatkan adrenalin gitu, sehingga jantung akan berdebar lebih cepat seperti itu. Kemudian juga kafein ini memiliki efek diuretik ya. Efek diuretik adalah kita akan lebih banyak produksi urinnya, lebih banyak nanti kita lebih banyak kencing gitu ya. Jadi hal ini bisa menyebabkan juga terjadi dehidrasi ya. Jadi kalau misalnya kita banyak mengkonsumsi kafein, maka juga harus cukup banyak cairan. Kemudian juga bisa menyebabkan konsentrasinya itu berkurang gitu ya. Karena ada ketidakseimbangan dengan glukosa, nah ini bisa menurunkan konsentrasi seperti itu. Kemudian juga karena adanya fluktuasi glukosa darah ini bisa mempengaruhi mood gitu ya, mempengaruhi gampang mudah marah seperti itu ya. Nah, kemudian juga ada pengaruhnya juga untuk metabolisme gitu ya. Jadi kafein ini bisa meningkatkan metabolisme gitu ya. Jadi kalau kita mengkonsumsi kafein, maka proses metabolisme di dalam tubuh kita itu akan meningkat seperti itu. Nah, jadi untuk beberapa ada beberapa orang mungkin mengkonsumsi kafein ini harus dibatasi ya. Jadi untuk beberapa orang yang memang tidak kuat gitu ya terhadap efek kafein, mungkin harus mengurangi ya, karena ada beberapa pengaruh kafein juga ini terhadap metabolisme karbohidrat. Jadi dengan adanya kafein ini juga dia akan meningkatkan pemecahan glikogen ya. Jadi kafein ini dia bisa meningkatkan ya meningkatkan pemecahan glikogen atau hidrolisis glikogen. Jadi glukosanya ini akan lebih meningkat gitu. Nah, inilah yang mungkin menyebabkan setelah kita kayak minum kopi gitu ya, setelah kita mengkonsumsi kafein, maka kita akan merasa kayak berenergi seperti itu. Nah, kemudian juga meningkatkan gluconeogenesis juga seperti itu. Nah, jadi ada ini juga sisi baik ya, sisi baik dari kafein, dia akan meningkatkan gluconeogenesis. Jadi dalam kondisi kita kekurangan glukosa, nah tentu saja kita juga harus seimbang gitu ya, konsumsinya seimbang. Jadi kalau misalnya konsumsi karbohidratnya rendah, maka dengan kafein ini kita bisa meningkatkan gluconeogenesis ya, kita bisa mengubah dari sumber yang non karbohidrat untuk menjadi glukosa. Nah, kemudian juga mempengaruhi insulin juga ya. Jadi kafein ini ternyata dalam jangka panjang itu bisa mempengaruhi sensitivitas kita terhadap insulin. Jadi sensitivitas reseptor kita terhadap insulin itu bisa turun gitu ya akibat banyak mengkonsumsi kafein. Nah, ini juga tentu saja akan mempengaruhi metabolisme glukosa di dalam tubuh kita. Gitu ya. Juga ada ada efeknya yang lain ya. Ada efek yang lain karena tadi efek yang pertama tadi mempengaruhi hormon adrenalin ya, yang menyebabkan kita kayak berenergi gitu. Nah, ini tentu saja juga akan mempengaruhi metabolisme karbohidratnya. Nah, mungkin itu ya beberapa efek gitu ya, efek dari kafein terhadap pengaruhnya ya, pengaruh dari kafein ini terhadap metabolisme karbohidrat. Gitu, Mbak Farah. Kalau di Malaysia itu manggilnya apa? Mbak atau apa? Farah, Farhana ya tadi yang lain.
Bukan saya doktor, Fatih.
Ya, siapa? Oke, apakah cukup Mas Adam? Or maybe another question? Itu sudah cukup?
Cukup. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Evi Yulianti, for delivering such an insightful and engaging lecture on glycolysis and gluconeogenesis. Your expertise and the valuable knowledge you have shared with us today are truly appreciated. On behalf of everyone here, I extend our sincerest gratitude to Dr. Evi Yulianti for taking the time to enlighten us on these important topics. Now, we will be taking a few photos as memories for all of us. Semua, kita yang mana boleh on camera tu kita on camera. Kita ambil gambar.
Ya, silakan on kamera.
Okay, mana yang ada je? 1, 2, 3. Okay, sekali lagi. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Once again, a big thank you to Dr. Evi Yulianti for her invaluable contribution. Let us give her another warm round of virtual applause for her exceptional presentation. And thank you all for attending, and may you have a pleasant day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Terima lagi doktor. Terima kasih.
Thank you, doktor.
Terima kasih.
Doktor.
Thank you, doktor.
Terima kasih, Doktor.
Thank you, Doktor.
Okay.
Selamat Hari Raya, Doktor.
Thank you, Doktor.